All right, guys, for this month's newsletter, we're gonna be talking about front rack prep. This isn't the magical guide to it. This is just a way that I go ahead and I prep for my front rack work. The first thing that I'm gonna do anytime I come into the gym on a day where I know there's gonna be front rack is I'm gonna do a movement test. Okay, for example, let's say you're coming in on the day. Let's take this Friday, for example, or our Fridays in this cycle, and we see clean and jerks. I'm gonna come in and my movement test on a Friday is always gonna be a clean and jerk. I'm gonna take my bar. I'm actually gonna do a couple cleans. Before I do anything else, I'm gonna do a couple jerks just to see how I'm feeling in my positions. Okay? This is really important for you to establish a baseline as we go through because we're gonna retest it at the end to see if you're ready to go. Okay? The first thing I'm gonna do after my movement test is gonna be some sort of soft tissue work where I'm either gonna be taking a foam roller, a baseball, a lacrosse ball, anything I can kind of jab into my lats. I'll put it right in the middle of the lat, do some arm work, some pumps, things like that, just to see if I can get things to loosen up right there. From there, I'm gonna be going into some sort of hanging variation. I usually like to start double overhand grip, and then as my hang starts to feel a little bit better, and as it starts to open up, I'll change my grip, I'll do double under, and I'm still trying to get my head all the way through that window. After that, after our hanging variation, just like we do in class all the time, we're looking at an arm swing series. Sometimes we're just swinging them forward for roughly 10, backwards. Then from there, I like to go into back touches. Take my thumbs, and I try to see how low on my back can I get my thumbs. Just as we go here, I know the lower I can get on my back, the more ready I'm probably gonna be in order to get into a front rack position. And then my favorite part of this, and probably the most uncomfortable part of this, is gonna be the pressing series. I'm just looking at some strict press work, and I'm looking at some behind the neck strict pressing as well, but there's gonna be something a little different about this, is that anytime we're lowering the bar back into a front rack position, whether we're in the front or if we're going into the back rack, I want you to overemphasize how high your elbows are. The way that this is gonna look, back in that front rack spot, and I'm trying to up and overhead. As I lower, I'm gonna overemphasize elbows high, elbows high, elbows high. Drop the elbows down, press on up. Elbows high, elbows high, elbows high. Okay, I'm gonna do roughly, let's say 5 to 8 reps there. Then bring the barbell to my back. In this back rack position, I'm trying to open my chest up as much as possible without arching the small of my back. From here, ribcage is pulled down, and I am pressing straight up to the sky. And this is where the uncomfortable part really sets in. Elbows are gonna be overly high, almost like you're lowering down into a skull crusher. Inner nose right here, you have a really, really, really big stretch on the lats. You're gonna hold for about 3 seconds, drop those elbows down, press straight up. Slowly lowering on down. We're gonna hold 2, 3, drop those elbows back. We're gonna go one more. So on the board, this says roughly 3 to 5. Remember, there's nothing magical about any of the numbers I wrote on the board. This is just roughly the ranges that I'll use in order to get ready for my movement, or for me to see progress within my movement test that I'm picking on the day. Okay, so let's say we did our original movement test, we went through our soft tissue work, we did our hanging variation, we went through all of our arm swings, we did our pressing series, and let's say we retest our movement test, or let's say we retest whatever we picked for our movement. For this one, it was the clean and jerk, and let's say we're still not ready to go. Okay, what do? I personally tend to not go all the way back up to my soft tissue work, but depending on how bad my hanging felt, so let's say I went up on the bar and it was really hard for me to get my head all the way through that window, or I felt extra tight on that day, I would start back on that hanging variation. If my hang position felt really good, I'm actually gonna just start in my arm swing series, and I'm gonna run through this another round here. Okay. Usually after 2 or 3 rounds, I feel like I'm ready to go. Front rack starts to open up, everything feels a little bit better, including in the wrist, up and overhead, and everything tends to feel a lot more stable and a lot easier to access positions, which is ultimately the goal. Okay? Guys, go ahead, give it a screenshot, give it a try this week, and let me know if it helped.